Unleashed is brought to you by Scott Diamond, your State Farm insurance agent, Pizza Villa in Dekalb, Elder Care Services of DeKalb County, The Junction Eating Place in DeKalb, and my insurance guy Mike DeVito in Sycamore. And welcome into TD Ryan Unleashed podcast, Newscast number 2. Joining us again, the former newsman, Dan Lynch. Dan, how you doing? Former newsman. Once a newsman, always a newsman, like a Marine, right? I think.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, great to have you here. And of course, we have a special guest from the 7th Ward of DeKalb, the representative from the 7th Ward, John Walker. John, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Good to see you guys.
Thank you for taking time to visit with us, John. John's going to comment on the news stories here as we go along. But Dan, you have some news, so let's start with the first news story.
Well, we're going to learn what a weed pan is.
Yeah, I'm sure John's all down with that.
A Cortland man is accused of pouring sugar into the gas tank of 2 different vehicles at a rural Maple Park home. The 19-year-old is also accused of slashing 3 tires on 2 vehicles. This was at a home on Oak Lane. This apparently happened about an hour after a transaction. According to the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office, back on May 19th, around 11:40 p.m., 19-year-old Trevor Thornton and another man arrived at the home to sell a weed pan to the homeowner's son. The son and the seller got into an argument. The seller came back an hour later and committed criminal damage to property. Now, a weed pan is used for vaporizing cannabis.
Oh, of course, yes.
Damage is estimated at over $500. Thornton is charged with criminal damage to property.
Now, John, if you were in charge, what would you charge this guy with? Would you just slap him on the wrist and tell him, hey, idiot, don't do that again? Or would you
Lock them up.
lock him up? It's kind of
Tired of playing with people.
little lesson.
Tired of playing with people. No, seriously, those little things get, I kind of overlook those little things, but at the end of the day, it always can lead to something big.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes we always try to give, people these days the benefit of getting out rather than dealing with the consequences. And when you don't get a harsh penalty the first time, then more than likely you're going to do something worse the second time.
We had a story not too long ago at Casey's where a gentleman was accused of stealing, I believe it was a chicken sandwich.
Oh, yes.
And some vigilantes tried to tackle him in the parking lot and as well. And so, again, you talk about letting little stuff go, but do you let something like that go?
No, see, now that's a tough one because, first of all, I don't know if the kid was doing it because, or whoever it was, I heard a little bit about it, but I don't know if they were doing it because they were hungry or just as a prank and a joke. Because a lot of these kids, this TikTok
That's
idiot
challenging.
stuff, they do all this dumb stuff, Like, I don't know, not to get off your topic, but you guys heard about a kid kicking in a grown man's door at 1 a.m. and getting shot and killed, but he did it as a TikTok joke.
Is that right?
Yeah, so not in our area, but it was national news.
Yeah, right.
So, things that, it's a slippery slope, but me personally, and maybe this is why out of all my 4 kids, probably 4 don't like me, is because, I don't give too much grace, because at the end of the day, you don't know who else is going to give you that grace.
There you go. Well, I know Dan and I were raised with strict disciplinarians too, and I think we turned out all right. What else you got there, Dan? What's your next story there, my friend?
By the way, that weed pan was going for $10. This is unfortunate. A licensed gun owner, I'm sure everyone's heard of this by now. Licensed gun owner shot another man in DeKalb Sunday and then called police to report it. DeKalb police were called to Eves Circle near Williams Way in DeKalb. This was at around 1:34 a.m. Found a male who had been shot multiple times. Now, according to scanner chatter, the shooting happened at some sort of gathering, and the shooter would not give out his name over the phone. But then police said the shooter did cooperate. The victim suffered life-threatening injuries and was taken to a hospital in Rockford. Authorities said the gun owner had a FOID card and a concealed carry permit. He was taken to the DeKalb PD. For further questioning, he's not been charged as of yet. And then, so that's the end of that.
We should point out that he's the one who called. He called the police, right?
Yeah.
Now, John, you're nodding your head like you know that story, know of that story?
I know a little bit. Yeah, I know a little bit. I spoke to, the proper channels of people
Okay.
to deal with that. So yeah, it's pretty much the story that I've received. I mean, it's a little sketchy for me, but I'm not a detective.
Right,
You know,
right.
so I can't really, I don't really want to comment on, the protocol of whatever they have to deal with.
No.
But, it just sounds a little fishy to me. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, fair enough. Now, I had the headline. I'm sorry, Dan, you had another story. Go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
Well, there was a headline in yesterday's Chronicle, Daily Chronicle, and I want to thank them for the nice article they did on us for freezing for food and Let's Talk Turkey. But the headline said, arrest down 13% in DeKalb County in 2024. So when I heard that, John, I thought, well, that's a good thing, right? Arrests are down. But they quote Andy Sullivan, the sheriff, in the article, and he said the reason they're down is because traffic stops are down because there's not enough officers. So, this leads right to the fact that you were a former UPS driver, and you've driven around DeKalb a lot. Cohen Barnes was here, the mayor, last week, and he said the number one complaints he get is the speeding in DeKalb and the roads, of course. You've been driving all around DeKalb in the UPS truck. Tell us about that. Are drivers that bad here in DeKalb, and how can we get to slow it down?
Yeah, 100%. That's one thing the mayor and I definitely agree on. I see it all day. I see idiots just, when the buses let kids out and people are tired of waiting for the kids, they go around them. I've seen it numerous times. And I will say I've worked pretty good with the city manager and a few of our DeKalb officers who have stayed doing their best to stay on top of that. And they're doing a good job. And the one thing that I pointed out at the council meeting on Monday was, and I don't want to say any names, but I wish I could give this guy a lot of credit. But, I saw him and I waited there just to, investigate how he handled it, because I like to see how they handle things.
Right.
And, not only did he write a ticket to the guy, but he told the guy, listen, what if this happened? What if you hit this kid? Can you imagine how your life would be?
Mm-hmm.
And basically, he kind of, try to, bring some knowledge to the situation, on why you shouldn't do that. But yeah, I see idiots all day just rip and run through red lights, cut people off, those pedestrian rocks, just try to go around them. I see it all day.
And of course, we had the mayor here, and he told us, we scooped the other news sources here telling us about a delivery man here in DeKalb who allegedly hit somebody and continued to drive, said, quote, I wanted to finish my deliveries, unquote. And,
For the UPS.
Yeah, no, it was not a UPS driver.
Man.
But again, making deliveries, it's a difficult thing to do. But in this case, where the gentleman decided to continue to drive, again, this is alleged, but...
Well, at UPS, we're not really allowed to keep working after we hit somebody.
That's a general rule. I like that. That's good. And then, Jen, this is just as a citizen, the scooters. I live over 10th and Davie over there in DeKalb, right by Little John School, and I'm seeing a lot of scooters, a lot of small kids on scooters with no helmets, just right down the middle of the road. And should we, like you say, you got no tolerance, but should we have a zero tolerance for that, or at least get a little harder on our enforcement? Dan, you got the kids too. What do you think about that?
Yeah, my kids are all asking for them now. So they're electric, so they're quiet.
Yeah,
That's
a good or a bad thing. Yeah.
And I see them all the time, even at night in DeKalb. You see their lights. They're illuminated. I mean, I don't want to be a killjoy because, frankly, it looks like a lot of fun, especially if I'm 15. What was the impetus of bringing that up? Was there a story about it or something?
No. Just in general, because I see it around my neighborhood all the time, and I'm just waiting for the next shoe to fall. I'm waiting for one of these kids to get hit in the scooter.
I think it's on par with a bicycle. These scooters.
Okay.
Some of these bicycles are motorized too.
Yeah, that's true. And in a related subject, John, and we want to put this to rest too, is the roundabout. The roundabout's proposed there, of course, at First Street. And many people have now we've talked to the mayor, who seems to be in favor of that. Bill Nicholas seems to be in favor as well. We had Alderman Cesada on here, still kind of on the fence there on that one. What are your thoughts about that? I know there's a lot of misinformation that they're going to tear Elwood House down or something like that, but what are your thoughts? Do we need the roundabout there? And again, you were on the roads a lot. Will it be safer if we put a roundabout there?
Well, when I was running for mayor or whatever, I didn't duck any questions. I just answered them how I really felt. And I'm not really for the roundabout right there. And I guess the main reason is, we have to think about what we're just talking about, pedestrian safety and crazy drivers. Now, and I don't know if my wife wants me to bring this up, but it was about a month ago in that same area where, we go to speed limit. I'm just heads in the clouds, we're talking, and there was a gentleman that just swerved around us and run to fight. I think he was waving a gun. I'm not sure.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think he was. My wife was like, John, but me, I'm still 49. I still got a little bit of juice left in the tank. So I'm just looking at him like, man, I don't think you really know who you're. But make a long story short.
So he stopped in front of you and
he tried to stop, brakes, everything. And I'm like, I'm mad today. I'm about to take it out on him. But nah, my wife locked the doors, keep driving, whatever. But what I'm saying is, you have guys like that imagine a roundabout where even sometimes you and I don't know whether to go or stay, and you got kids who need to cross.
Right.
And say a guy's just impatient, just wants to go around. Now, I know you can bring up, statistics and studies, or they're safer here and there, but it just takes one time for a kid to get ran over by a school. It's right by a school. Now, I get it, those things, and I did my homework on them. They are less expensive as far as maintenance going forward. However, does that, equate to a life, in some cases? And, like out on 47, I think that's where roundabout.
Yeah, there's 3 in a row up there.
Yeah, but that's because now I deliver that way. So yeah, you don't want to, like there, you want to keep traffic flowing, but do you really want to keep traffic flowing in an area like that? That's all I was ever saying. And where I got my facts from wasn't from social. I'm not even on social media unless I'm, from my hometown Pacers. Pacers. But but the thing is this though. I mean, do you really want traffic to keep going in that area where you have college kids? Not college kids. Elementary school kids
yeah.
that are going to school. That sometimes, as I'm working, they don't even look both ways. And I imagine all the confusion where drivers are irking and jerking, and kids don't know if they could go. Traffic could still get backed up just because of the situation. So that's why I think that we don't really need it right now.
And couldn't we do you want to redesign that? Can we redesign it to make it less confusing? Because I take that little stretch all the time, and the arrow says it's going to become one lane, but then if you want to keep going straight, it is a little confusing there.
Yeah, I honestly think that we could do that, but we had our city engineer just skip town on us and just quit out of nowhere, and that's that wasn't because of anything city council or the city manager did. He just didn't want to work. So I was working, to try to get more information about that. He kind of left that in.
I'm glad you brought that up, John, because I didn't want to bring it up because the person we talked to didn't know that it happened, and so.
We all didn't. It was just last minute.
Out of there. But his last thing he did was propose this roundabout, right?
Yeah, how do you do that? Then, to clear some things up. I mean, hats off. And people know because of some of the, things that I've said about city manager. Him and I have a great relationship. There's no doubt about it.
He was your mentor, wasn't he?
Yeah, for sure. And
Bill Nicholas we're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. And whether, whatever the case may be. But the one thing is, when this engineer left, he dropped a lot of work in that man's lap and a lot of other city heads. So, I mean, right now, because of the situation, we need to kind of scale back on that and kind of investigate it now because, the guy that proposed it, just said, hey, I'm out of here. See you when I see you. So I think, going forward, we should maybe, peel the banana back a little bit and find out, if it's an adequate place right now to put that.
This is why we like having John Walker on.
I know.
He's a little insight here.
Let's just go.
For me to get to church, I have to reroute because they're putting a roundabout in.
Oh, they're northern, yeah.
Normal and Lucinda.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so truth be told, I actually like roundabouts because I think they do improve flow, and statistically they are safer. The problem is it takes 6 to 9 months to install these things.
Yeah.
So we got Lucinda and Normal, and then you're talking about by the Elwood House.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they commission studies on traffic and.
Now, my understanding is that is that the state or federal would pay for the majority of this. The city would be on the hook, I think for 10% if they actually did it. So.
It was nominal,
yeah.
If I remember.
But I believe the one that, and don't quote me on this, but it was during the race, but I think it ended up costing the city 1.8. But I'm not 100% sure if we have to pay the 1.8 or if it was federal, money we were getting. But it was 1.8. It was more. It came in more over budget than I was told.
Okay.
And that's why I voted for that at the time. Now, if it would have came over a budget at that point, then I would have voted no for the Lucinda and normal one. So,
all right, very good.
That one up.
That's Seventh World. John Walker is joining us here on our podcast newscast number 2. Now we want to get into the subject of the grocery tax and put it to bed once and for all. Dan, did you give another little story we can pop in there?
Okay, this is Dekalb County. Police are investigating a driveway sealing scam. 3 men in a truck, reportedly.
That was a baby, wasn't it? A movie for 3 men in a truck?
Tom Selleck. They demanded $3,000 from the homeowner after applying a dark liquid to his driveway. Suspects described as 3 males had a compressor and a large tank in the truck bed, which lacked a front license plate, and had green carpeting covering the rear plate. When the resident said he couldn't pay, men attempted to take his vehicle away instead. They
Huh.
fled when police were called. The village of Waterman requires permits for door-to-door business solicitations, including driveway work, and residents are urged to report suspicious activity. I live on South 2nd Bar Boulevard, and lovely neighborhood. Love the neighborhood and the people.
Love your neighborhood.
But some kid knocked on the door again, wanted to sell me some bugs, wanted to spray for bugs at my house. I said, dude, I'm good. I'm okay with the bugs.
Yeah.
Now they went ahead and put the ceiling on the driveway before even telling the people, huh? And then tried to charge them for it?
Yes.
There's no way.
No.
I'm sure there's more to it. I'm sure there had to have been some conversation before.
All right, very good. Well, now let's talk about this grocery tax. And again, like I said, maybe we can finally put this bad baby to bed because it just seems to go back and forth. Now, we had Bill Nicholas on our podcast, and Bill said he is for it. We had Mayor Cohen Barnes on it, and he said he's for it because the city would lose up to $800,000. Now, the headline in the Chronicle, John, was not enacting DeKalb grocery tax would hurt public safety departments. So said Bill Nicholas. Now, I do agree with that statement. That's kind of a broad statement, but if we lose this $800,000, can we make it up in another way? And Alderman Cesada said maybe the marijuana tax, that we use that money.
Hey, you know what? And like I said, I'm gonna reiterate. Bill
All
and I are real. We're close. I like.
I wrote mentor. We're
friends.
mentor next to that.
We're friends. However, like I told Big Willie, Big Billy. I said, hey, just like in all of our own private, home lives and our own private budgets, we all had to adjust. We had to figure it out.
Mhm.
And I do understand, it's an easier way out, to just, keep the 1% in there so we can pay for whatever that needs to be paid. I get that. It's an easier way to do it.
Yeah.
But, sometimes, like Grandma said, life ain't always easy. So you're going to have to, put your big, I don't want to say what she called them BADs, but we'll leave that alone. Put your big boy underwear on and figure out another way to come up with that money.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because we do need it, but you know what? We should have every opportunity that every other city, will have, with, this so-called regressive tax. So I just believe that I don't want it in because we have to remember for us, it may not be that big of a deal, 1%, whatever.
And John, by the way, it's a podcast. You can say anything you want.
Yeah.
Although I've done 14 podcasts now, I've yet to swear. I can't.
Well, I
can't bring myself to swear.
I try to be respectful as much as I can, but I see it this way. I just feel like in our own personal budgets, we've all had to cut some things out.
Right.
And I just feel like the city's going to have to learn that you're going to have to, tighten up some things, cut some things out. Now, I will say this, and I hope no one gets upset with me with this, but hey, you guys know me, I'm quite controversial. As an alderman, I always look ahead, and I do see that our city workers are coming up on, which I believe is a raise that they much need and much deserve. And Andy Ray's guys have done, a spectacular job here in the city. I mean, second to none. People think they just sit in their trucks and, play around. I play around with them when I'm working, but I see all the things that they do. So, some of that money, possibly could, help, bring a raise to them, a much needed raise that they deserve. And I hope that they do get, and I am supportive of that 100%. However, I just think Big Billy's going to need to figure out a way how we can, come up with that money without putting that 1% on.
Oh, well put there. Yeah, Andy Ryan is a great guy, too. And they're doing 10th Street, my street. They're doing my street. So I drove by today with the excessive heat, and they're out there slaving away.
Yes, sir.
But like you said, I wrote underneath this here where Bill Nicholas said, paraphrasing, a 5% reduction city operations will most certainly lead to cuts in operating expenditures. So, all right. So it does. So let's cut, right? Gotta cut.
Hey, guess what I had to cut out, you guys?
What's that?
Now, keep in mind, I'm trying to get my figure back, but I had to cut out Doritos because, the money just was getting tight.
Well, here's what's excluded. You can, John, you can eat deli items to your heart's content. You can excluded from the tax are deli items by weight, fresh fruit and vegetables,
Okay.
meat trays, bread and bagels, and items sold in pre-measured containers such as ice cream.
Okay.
So they're not going to take your ice cream.
Well, I left that alone. I'm trying to get rid of my leftovers. So.
All right, so again, that's where it stands right now. Again, we should point out, Dan, that this tax is still in play until January of next year. So,
Okay.
right, so it's not like we're not paying it already.
Right.
It's just the principle of the thing. We appreciate your honesty on that one. And I want to ask you too, John, because
Sure.
I see here that the DeKalb County Board voted against the tax.
Sure.
I guess one of the members called it evil at one point. I believe Sycamore has voted against it as well. And Sandwich Mayor Todd Latham has argued that losing the grocery tax would cut needed city budget funds. So Sandwich is for, the other three against. So But do you see people? I was joking with Dan. Is somebody going to go to somewhere in DeKalb County, outside of the city of DeKalb, and go to like a dollar store and do their shopping there?
I mean,
because there's no 1% tax.
I mean, there are paid people like myself who probably would, do that just for the simple
principle.
fact. Yeah, I'm all about principality. I like to make words.
Well, it's like the gas tax when the people I'm going to go somewhere else to get my gas, but it's like 25 cents a gallon. You get 10 gallons of gas. What are you saving by driving to another area?
Yeah, that's why I say sometimes it's principle. Sometimes people get upset that you didn't vote the way that that they wanted you to, so they just do it. That's me, but and when my wife will listen to this, she'll be like, "That's you," because I said that. I said, hey, if we keep this, we're shopping somewhere else.
Dan, what are your thoughts? You got a big family to shop for. That 1% would hit you, or has been hitting you pretty hard, I guess.
Well, I still shop in DeKalb because it's convenient. It's close to home. Gas is always putting gas in my tank, so I drive to Batavia or the Valley wouldn't help me.
Well, I'm guilty of going. My wife and I go to the big box store because we try to shop the smaller stores, but the money. I mean, you get right down to it. You got to save the money where you can.
I mean, yeah, you have to. And I think sometimes what we do as people is we don't really worry about the other people. You know what I mean? We just say, hey, we got it, so we can do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think, and on the flip side of the city, councilman, I do get, why, it makes sense why we should. But however, I'm just not a city councilman. I'm a father of 4 and a husband, and I help people out. So, it could get quite expensive to do certain things. So at the end of the day, I want to think about the people less fortunate. Then you got to think about this, even the people that are on the SNAP program and all that, all the public aid and all that type of thing. So with everything that, our president federal cuts were having, those people will be, hurt the most, because I'm sure that program will get cut at some point. So you got to remember things of that nature as well.
Although there is a point here where Bill Nicholas points out that DeKalb's poorest residents, including those using Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, purchase cannot be charged a grocery tax. So at least that's a little something there,
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Just pull any punches. All right, we're going to get to some lighter material here, but I want to ask you about something that you talked about during your campaign to run for mayor of DeKalb.
For sure.
And that's the Human Relations Commission. Now, I think many of us, I didn't know what that was, and then it went away, I understand, and you tried to get it back, and is it a gone thing now, John? And are there other commissions that are covering that?
Great question. So, not to throw no punches because I am respectful. That's really a good question for the mayor. There's more into why it was taken out, and I'll let him speak on that. If he wants to be upfront and honest about it, I'll let him do it. But at the end of the day, I know why it was taken out, and I don't know if you guys remember, but I was a part of the HRC, and we did a lot of great work. I learned from a lot of great
Tell people what that did, John. What was the Human Relations Commission?
Okay, well, the Human Relations Commission, it's just roughly, people with, questions or views or complaints, you reach out to, us, and what city material, whether it's about, just various things. I mean, how police were treating it, although the Citizen Review Board deals with that now.
I was going to say, so that covers that, okay.
It did, yeah. I mean, whether, how, you're being treated by landlords, or for an example, when I was on there, we did the Chapter 10, that's the tenant and landlord agreement. So back when, landlords were basically allowed to screw tenants, we wrote, I guess you could say the Constitution for that. And we worked with DARA, the Dekalb area, whatever. And so we do things of that nature. And we did a lot of great work. And now, when things happen around town, there's no board or no commissions to go to, to discuss some of the things that, people have an issue with. And I just believe that has a negative impact on our citizens here in DeKalb.
Well, John, what is the Swift, Certain, and Fair Committee that you are on, or what is that now?
Okay, so that's through the county. That's basically, in so many words, okay, let's say you get arrested, you go to jail. Basically, I'm on a board to where we figure out if you deserve a second chance based off, the things, the requirements that we put forth. You have to follow those, and it goes between, a board of us. One, I believe it's the state attorney still on there. I'm not sure. The old state's attorney was on there, but
okay.
Yeah, we haven't.
Rick Amato, right?
Yeah, Rick was on there, but we haven't met for a while because there's been nobody doing it. And our president's trying to cut that these days.
Right.
So, but no, so that's basically that is we just see if you deserve a second chance, and you will get a second chance based off if you go through all requirements and all protocol. So basically, it's either stay in jail or get out of jail and live by these rules.
I want to ask you a tough question, but again, you're not afraid of tough
Never
questions.
tough.
When you were running for mayor, obviously you wanted to be mayor very badly. Did you compromise your principles at all when you were running for mayor? Some folks suggested you might have gone a little low in certain areas, and that's what I'm saying. Did you compromise
Well, hey,
in any way?
I love your podcast, so definitely just so we can do it, so I can just knock it out. Like, what did they think that I went on?
Oh, I don't know any specifics. I'm just asking you if you felt you compromised yourself in any way.
No, I loved everything that I stood behind. I had black people mad at me because I sat down and talked with Mason a lot before he passed away. I have, white people mad at me because, it was just, but here's my thing, I'm not hard to find. If you have a problem with me, there was a pastor, I've known him since I was 19. I think he's a clown, but, he had a couple words to say at his congregation about, me not being black enough or something like that. And it got back to me. But the thing is, as an alderman, I don't get to pick and choose who I sit down and talk to based off their beliefs. Like, rest in peace, Jim Mason. I know a lot of people thought negative about some of the things I did about some of the things. But the one thing about the man is, him and I've known him since I was a rookie driver. I delivered to him. So we sat down and we talked a lot about whatever the case may be, and we've had some discussions that got pretty heated. But I'm an alderman, and I'm an alderman in, where his business is. So I can't turn my back on a constituent just because he doesn't view things or agree with everything that I say. It's my duty to listen to everybody that, I represent. Whether they're racist or want to be racist or, short, fat, black, white, skinny, or fat, it don't matter to me. I have a duty to listen to everybody who has an issue. And no one's going to tell me who I can't and can't talk to. That's just not me. My grandmother and my mother raised me to have, a different type of integrity that most people have. So, I took a lot of shots over out here on social media. I also heard that, because I went smiling one day in a picture that I didn't like, gay people. And then I was just like, are you serious? My son called me like, they're blasting you on this. First of all, I'm like, man, it's always something. But I was like, hey, tell that guy to call me and I tell him what I really think. You know what I mean? So then I got to see some of my gay friends looking at me a little sideways, Yeah, instead of just coming to me and talking to me, because at the end of the day, you guys know me by now. You can always come and talk to me.
Right.
But with the whole mayor thing, did I think I was ever going to win? No, I never did. I told my wife I'm doing it to have my voice and to put it out there. If I win, hey, it's like playing with the house's money because I know I can do it.
Right.
People told me I can do it, but I don't need people to tell me I can do things. I know what I can and can't do. So, no, I didn't compromise myself. And in fact, I think I feel better because now I'm not sitting on the fence, leaning this way or that way. I want everybody to know where I'm coming from and where I stand, period. And if you don't, then I'm going to slow down how I talk so you can understand it. And one thing, TD, I definitely always want to say, and I hope this gets to everybody, listen, at the end of the day, I've been in this town 28 years. Everything that I've done for helping kids and families, I never asked for recognition. There are black kids, there are white kids, there are brown kids. It's all that. It's never to help me. The only thing that helped me was to be in their lives and them to be in my kids' lives, to be friends. Like I never just did anything out there, just so, hey, maybe if I do this, I'll get a lot of money for this so we can throw it. But it's not about that. When I do things, it comes from, the care of my heart. And yeah, I am a rough man, rugged sometimes, very, very outgoing, tell you to your face what I think about you or your wife or your husband, whoever it is. That's just me and willing to do whatever you want to do. But at the end of the day, the people that, have issues with me or the people that do things just for their business or just for their need, and that's one thing people can't get about me, and I don't want to go over. I see you keep.
No, we're getting the time.
Yeah. So it's kind of like this, the first set of people that hate me were the school district coaches because those kids respected me so much because I was in their life. And they couldn't understand why all these good athletes, respected me so much, so they would kind of, try to keep me out of certain things. I would call for my son, the idiot football coach would call me back. And there were like several kids that I got, into college and all they needed to do was talk to a high school coach, and the high school coach gave a call some of these kids, coaches back. And for a kid, like I had a kid by the name of Dwayne Lacey, everyone thought that he was a horrible kid, whatever. Make a long story short, dad died, mom just needed help. My family helped him out. He ended up just graduating maybe 2 years ago. But if a kid like that would have stayed in DeKalb, he would have definitely been robbing you or probably shot somebody over on Russell Road just because of the trajectory, of his life or whatever. And for a high school kid, not to call a college coach back to help that kid get into school, that's what we deal with here in DeKalb, things of that nature. So, that's just one of the things. And another thing, it's like being a black man. Everyone thinks that I just need to run behind every little Black Lives Matter or whatever the case may be. I'm not about to do that. You know what I'm about to do? I'm about to make where I live better based on the people that I love and people that love me. So if anybody ever has a problem with, me or whatever, I'm not hard to find, and basically I'm not threatening nobody, but hey, we can do whatever you want to do. We can handle it any way you want. But at the end of the day is everything that I've stood on has been hard integrity, whether it's been an alderman or how does a man work for UPS for 28 years? Only one complaint. And the one complaint was from somebody from this pastor's church about how I delivered their package in 28 years. Things like that don't happen. So at the end of the day, I think people know my integrity, and you guys seen it. I've been dealing with you guys for so long, coming in there, you guys brightening up each other's day, and your wife, I go see her to fix my chains or whatever. And
the chains are good, by the way.
Hey, and by the way, man, you married up, dude. I know I did, but you married up, man. You married up.
I think Dan would say the same thing.
Becky is beautiful.
Now, we don't have time to get it, but I do want to mention your Youth Bride Foundation, and people can find out more about that. Just go to Youth Bride Foundation, right, online?
Actually, we minimized it to we train kids and just mentor them, and you give me a call. You know me.
Is that Vince Robinson?
Yeah, Vince.
He comes in. I work at Hays Gym now, and I see Vince coming in all day.
Vince has my nephew and a few kids that go through the Youth Pride Foundation. So yeah, see how things add up as far as integrity. Now people can tell you what they want, but look what we're still doing.
I love it.
Look what we're still doing.
Now we're going to lighten it up here, but I do want to mention Donna Johnson. Donna Johnson was a former DeKalb city clerk. She just passed away. Donna was a city clerk, and then the full-time position in 1997. The office was held, her leadership was highly regarded for professionalism, transparency, and reliability. A talented bookkeeper. Donna, I wish we had this now, John. Donna closely monitored the details of city transactions and expertly recorded the minutes of the city government meetings. She serves as city clerk until 2009. So wouldn't it be great to have her back as city clerk here in DeKalb?
I wish we could have Donna.
I mean, we love our boy that's sitting there now, but it's not really a position, right?
I'd rather have Donna.
All right. We want to mention she was also co-founder and with her sister Shirley Justice of the DeKalb Credit Union Services Center, which focused on savings and loans for working people.
Was that the credit union right over here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, I know that. I know her. Yeah.
So we want to thank Donna for her service to her country. We're going to try to get her stepson here to talk about that.
Sure.
You got one more heavy story, then we're going to lighten things up here.
No Kings DeKalb this Saturday, Hopkins Park, noon to 1:30. Be there or be in Red Square.
Or be in Red
They
Square.
will be protesting the authoritarianism and the corruption of the president. So,
And John, will you be there, or will you make a speech, or would you if they ask you to?
No, I'm not going to no garbage like that. My thing is this, man. I'm not in for no movements of that nature. I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not any of that. I won't get into all the Republican and all the stuff that's going on, man. I'm here to help people that love me and the people that need my help, period.
All right.
John brought up an interesting point overall. I could summarize that if he helps someone out, he doesn't trumpet it.
Yes.
Facebook is full of men and women who are so petty, and they get on and they brag about themselves. A lot of braggarts on that platform. They're very critical, extremally petty, and there's always the person that has to comment on every bloody post.
You want to know why? But you want to know why? Without being funny, because they have nothing going on in their lives. Their lives are so dull that they sit on social media all day and comment on things that they can't even change by just commenting on Facebook. How about you get out and you run for alderman? How about you get out and be on a citizen review board? How about you get out and be on the HRC? How about you get out and just, be nice to somebody or help someone's kid or someone's family out? And so that's why it's hard when I'm on social media, and everybody can look at my social media page on X. I'm a Pacer fan. We treat Pacer highlights all day. That's what I am. Let's go, Indiana Pacers.
Yeah, we're recording this Thursday, and they look great. They looked fantastic last night, I'll tell you. Now, fun jams in the park. Of course, Chief Bird just won an award as well, a Medal of Honor. And to me, there's no finer. Now, I see you were on the police search committee, John, back in the day. And he does a fun jams in the park. I want to let people know it's coming up on June 24th at the Welsh Park and then July 1st at Welsh Park. Talk about Chief Bird for a minute or two and why you chose him to be our police chief here in DeKalb.
All right. Well, at the time, I just thought that was what DeKalb needed at the time. Our town has grown, numerously in certain areas, and I think Chief Bird at the time was a good pick for us. We all who voted for him or tried to get him thought at the time he was pretty good. So you never know what the future may, lead to or have. But what they do, what the whole police department. We've done that before Chief Bird was even here, though, just so everyone's, aware of that. We've done that for a while. There's some good guys like Andy Sullivan,
Sure.
That's done a lot over at DeKalb High School, and I call him Mr. Gordon or whatever. They've done a lot of good things, and you need, police officers like that on the street with these youth teens these days. You need them because they respect those guys more. So I think sometimes when we talk about the DeKalb Police Department, we try to give credit to one person. Well, let's just be honest here. DeKalb Police Department has always been somewhat decent in our area with a lot of good, strong police officers. Most of those guys I've known since I was a rookie driver, and now they're lieutenants and sergeants, came up in the ranks as I did as a UPS driver. So I think sometimes we have to, sometimes quit trying to give one person all the credit, but give the credit to, most of the people on the force, because they had one bad incident, where we had to create a citizen review board that really doesn't do much. But I think going forward, and I told Nicholas about this, we have to somehow stop giving one person, although he's in charge of them. But those guys, go be up and beyond, the call of duty, and I see it. And I just think, I would like to give all those guys, credit, not just one.
All right, very good. Now, the Cal Park District, which I am now a proud employee of, is having a fishing derby coming up at Mason Park, Larson Lake. You know where that is? I don't know where that is. It's off of Annie Glen Road.
I just seen it too. I just seen it.
Do you know where that is, Anthony?
No, it's right on Annie Glen. I think it's over in the nose.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
But they're having a fishing tournament this Sunday, starting at 8:30 there at the lake. Do you fish, John? I wonder, do you do a little bit of fishing?
Man, the first time my grandfather took me fishing and we threw the fish back, I was done. I was like, we sat out here for 15 hours and you're throwing the fish back? I've never been back and never going back. Never, ever in my life.
Dan, you got a brood of little ones there. Are they fishing?
Very little fishing from me here and there, but I like a good fish fry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hit me with the cod.
What about perch, ketchup,
yeah.
and let the tartar sauce and ketchup mix?
I'm not much of a fisherman, but fishing derbies are great. The kids will love it.
Yeah. Now, Stagecoach Players have a Legally Blonde running this weekend and next weekend there at the beautiful Stagecoach Players Theater. Band concerts. That's nothing we're really blessed, John. They have the band concerts Tuesday night in Hopkins Park, and then Wednesday nights we have music at the Mansion as well.
Man, you know what? I don't want to tell you guys, but back in my 7-8-year-old days, I was a pretty bad violin player.
Is that right?
My mom forced me to do it.
No way.
Yeah, it was either that.
That would be the last thing I would have John Walker do.
It was either play the violin or I had to read, and I hated reading. So it's a violin. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I have pictures.
That's great.
You'll never see it busting out of my tight pants and tight shirt, But yeah, I was a pretty decent violin player.
And I want to just mention the weather because we were going to try to get Gil Semensky, who used to be on with us on the radio station. We tried to get him to do weather for us, but all we know is it's dry. The rain totals for this year right now at 9.31. Normally should be 15.59. How's John Walker's lawn looking these days?
Man, yeah, I had to buy a lot of sod and fix a lot of stuff up. But that's where I get my peace. So sometimes I mess the grass up just so I can be out there on a Saturday or Sunday a little bit more.
Dan, how about you? How's the lawn doing over there?
My lawn is half cut because it started raining on Sunday right in the middle. So I put the tractor in the shed.
Now, my four brothers and I, we used to fight over who got to cut the lawn until we realized we didn't want to do that. Are your kids at that age yet where they want to cut the lawn?
We all want to cut it because I don't know what is so therapeutic about it, but
I just love cutting lawns. I
Me
know what
too.
it is.
Me
The
too.
smell and then the symmetry, the way it looks so good like that. And I see guys in my neighborhood, they got these little yards. He's got the 8 horsepower tractor, you know. It's like, he drives 5 feet. You're the guy.
I got a rider.
Drive 5 feet, put a reverse, drive 5 feet.
That's me. Hey,
When you put it in reverse, the PTO stops.
I always thought right when you buy a John Deere, you made it. That's why I cut everybody on my blocks.
And I want to touch on sports. Last week we forgot to mention the Dekalb girls softball team. They had a winning season this year. They won a regional title, and they lost in the sectional semifinals. So congratulations to Coach Erica Swan and the entire team. Not giving one person credit
Thank you.
for a great job that they did this year, and they really have come back well there. So congratulations to the Dekalb softball team.
Hey, real quick, you ever notice? I hate to interrupt, but you
No.
ever notice like all the girl sports at DeKalb, they don't get the credit that they should. Whether it's track and field that they do good in, whether it's softball, they had a pretty good softball years ago.
Yeah.
And we always pay attention to the boys sports, but it's just always the same old story. So I want to definitely give credit to the coaches that do coach these young ladies and the young ladies who are going out there performing, because they honestly hold DeKalb down.
Well, honestly, when I was at the radio station, we didn't start covering women's sports until about 5 years ago. So we were guilty of not covering them either.
I'm
So,
upset with that. Didn't
well,
I?
like you said, I'm all about the truth. So.
I get it. I love it. I love it.
All right, we used to do birthdays, so we would encourage people to let us know if you have a local birthday. But I want to mention Tim Allen is 72. I watched his original show. He's done the same show 3 times. Do you know Tim Allen at all, the comedian?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
All 3 of his shows are the same show. It's just like, and he continues to make money at that. So who am I? And he was a drug dealer, when he was younger.
When we are. Somehow, somewhere.
Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen are 38. Those two always kind of screw me
Whoa!
a little
Yeah.
bit. I can't believe they're
38?
That's when you know you're
Yeah.
getting old, right?
Steve-O from MTV is 50. I don't know how he's still alive.
He should have.
And Richard Thomas from John Boy, Good Night John Boy, is 73.
Well, hold on.
years
My
old.
wife's birthday was yesterday.
Oh, let's get that
Amy
in. Okay.
Walker.
All
Amy
right.
Walker, the best teacher in DeKalb, and she turned 46, and though she looks 26.
And give a shout out to your kids, Dan, John, if you would, please.
My kids are Jared, Jalen, Jayla, and Jordan. Actually, Jordan. Proud of him. Just got a job in Cincinnati. Works for a business called TQL.
Okay.
So we just got back from Cincinnati, and my wife's going to kill me for this one. But did you know every woman in Cincinnati is beautiful?
Really?
We were like, wow. We were looking around like, wow. Every
Eye
woman.
candy in Cincinnati.
Hey, do you guys remember WKRP in Cincinnati? Think about what I think about you. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Yeah.
Dr. Johnny Fever in the gang there. I always wanted to.
Yeah, but not-
that would make you Les Nessman. I don't think you want to be Les Nessman.
And
the Silver Sow Award.
Buckeye
Yes.
Award.
That's
for
right.
Sure.
And finally, people are hearing this on Friday the 13th is when this is going to be dropped. Superstition, I was thinking about that when Dan was talking about his DJ days. He used to play that to get people to dance. It's like, there is superstition.
Oh,
Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder.
play that track. If no one's on the dance floor, play that track.
Yeah, for sure.
But John, do you have any superstitions?
Everything. My mom made me that. Hey, it's so bad for where, well, you guys know about the black cat if it crosses your path.
Right.
So when I'm driving a UPS truck, even if I'm in a time committed, delivery, I will turn around and go back the other way, not to cross that cat. My mom got me on that. When we're in the city walking, you can't split a pole. I don't step on cracks, all that. Yeah, that's me.
I want to do a news quiz. I forgot to warn Dan, so Dan, come up with a question for the news quiz here. And then I want to end it with a light story here. This is from 1925, John, but what are your thoughts about the pool right now? Of course, a $14 million proposed pool. I know that's the Park District. It's not your thing, but just as a citizen of DeKalb, I admit that I'm probably one of the 10 or 15% that use the pool. I know a very small percentage use the pool. What are your thoughts about that?
There's too much money for a pool. Like, no one goes to that pool. I mean, people are going to be mad. And
No, but we can always count on you an honest answer.
it's just like, for what? Like, I mean, I think that they could have reduced, the price of that pool, because like you said, only 15 or 20% maybe use it. I mean, let's just be honest. I'm sure they could have allocated more money somewhere else to take care of something else. I mean, let's maybe put some of that money into some of the sports that go on over here in DeKalb.
Well, here's a story from when the pool was built, 1925. Announcement is made today that arrangements were completed yesterday whereby electric lights are being installed at the community swimming pool. Once it was predicted the work would begin today, the announcement coming from one of the most interested in the pool. It received joys of thousands of people who took advantage of the opportunity to enjoy a swim occasionally. during the torrid weather at night. And I'm thinking, John, 1925, electric lights and a swimming pool.
Yeah.
That don't sound like a good.
It sounds good to me.
That equals no fun at all.
Skinny dipping.
All right, Dan, to wrap things up, what do you got for our news?
Just get a backhoe, dig a big hole, fill it with water.
Hey, jump
There we
in.
go. Jump in.
Jump in.
I don't have Renee. Betty, I believe it was Newmar, won our previous news quiz from last week.
Oh,
So,
really?
Dan, what do you got for the news quiz question?
And what are you giving away, Dee?
Oh, we have a gift certificate to Pizza Villa, pizza, pasta, sandwiches, and more over there at Pizza Villa. I want to thank John Finn for his support for the podcast. And what do you got for us there?
So a Cortland man accused of pouring sugar into the gas tank of two different vehicles and slashing some tires at a rural Maple Park home. This was after a transaction, an apparent transaction was made. What was the item that was being sold in this transaction?
All right, and if you know the answer, contact me at tdryan2001@yahoo.com. Again, the first winner will win a Pizza Villa gift certificate. We might have something else along there, too. So again, tdryan2001@yahoo.com. If you know the answer to our trivia question. Again, I thanks to friends at Pizza Villa. Bigger thanks to John Walker. John, we'll give you a final word here. What would you like to say to the folks that are listening here, not only in DeKalb, but DeKalb County? Because again, you've been living here almost 30 years and obviously love it. You raised your kids here and your lovely wife give back, teaching our young people. So what do you want to tell the folks?
Well, first and foremost, you guys know me. I wanted to say I'm very displeased with you guys not being on every day. When I heard that, I was pretty pissed off about it because you guys bring a lot of news. But it's not just that. You guys wake up people. And, like I said, 5 o'clock, I listen to you guys in the morning. It's been kind of, hell not to, because I felt like we were friends, you know what I mean? So, and a lot of people do miss you guys. A lot of guys at work say the same thing. So I hope if anybody ever could hear me, that we can get you guys back on the airwaves as soon as possible somewhere else with some good money, to be honest with you guys, because you guys deserve it. And secondly, I just like to say, hey, I love being an alderman. Hey, I'm sorry I couldn't win the mayor election. Sometimes you put yourself out there, for something in the future, you just never know. But at the end of the day, I love supporting, my constituents and people who aren't. I just love going around here, hearing people's value about what they can do for our city. So, and I encourage people to understand, if you want to run for an alderman position, start, looking into the due diligence of the job before you say, hey, I just want to do it. You know what I mean? Don't just take someone's word for it. Get out there and understand what the job entails, because there could be a meeting where it's standing room only and you hold the last vote, in your hands. And because as you can see, sometimes, we have older people now who don't show up for those types of, not life-changing votes or, city-changing votes. So, hey, watch what you want to run for, but hey, go out there and understand the job. And not just that, get with the mayor on getting on some of our boards. I like to think that, city council, we're not as strong as we used to be after we left Greg Perkins, one of my best mentors, as well with doing city council. Hopefully I can pick up where he left off with some of the good questions he used to ask. But, try to get on boards, just try to be more familiar, because at the end of the day, no matter who won our election, we only had, I believe, 19% voter come out, and that's just not good in a town of that. I mean, and like I say, my hands go off to the mayor. He's doing a decent job. We agree and disagree on some things, but at the end of the day, we are, I'd like to say, a strong team up there, and we are headed, DeKalb in the right direction. And you guys know me. If I think there's some funny business going on, I'm definitely gonna call whoever on it. But at the end of the day, I always leave with respect, or at least try to, so I don't get in trouble by my daughter or my twin boys. So yeah.
Well, John, you're a straight shooter, and you don't hear that much these days. And I know, Dan, you and I appreciate that very much. That when John was coming in today, we knew he would give us the straight answers and not a bunch of political talk and try to make himself look good.
Right. Politicians speak in a lot of cliches.
Yeah.
Very, very scripted.
Well, you know what the problem is, right? So, and this is what I tell, because my wife is a smart one. I'm not. I'm just I said, babe, I don't have time to be trying to use all these big, like, you guys hear all these people trying to use big old words, and like you said a word there, I'm like, I'm trying to look, what the hell did that mean? So I just come, and when you do that, you're trying to be a political guy. No, I just come with the, hey, I remember my grandma used to say, hey, you cuss too much because your vocabulary is small, and I'd be like, hey, you got me there. It's not, but
Let's leave it at that. We're going to leave that at that. That is Alderman, 7th Ward Alderman from Dekalb, John Walker, our guest here. Dan, thank you for your news and your time today.
Oh, it's an honor being out with you guys, and heck, go Pacers.
Yes,
Go Pacers.
Yes,
And that's
sir.
podcast Newscast number 2, T.D. Ryan Unleashed. T.D. Ryan Unleashed is brought to you by Scott Diamond, your State Farm Insurance Agent. Pizza Villa in DeKalb. Elder Care Services of DeKalb County. The Junction Eating Place in DeKalb. And my insurance guy, Mike DeVito in Sycamore.